Hey guys, it's Jeff from Everything Plants. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to talk about my most favorite plant species, the Ficus Elastica. It's been a while since I've made a video specific to this plant, so I'm going to talk about the types that I have, how to care for it, how to propagate it, and also repot this larger one into a little bit of a bigger pot. So I have 4 different varieties in my collection right now. This is probably one of the more popular ones out there right now. This is the Taniki or Tenica, however you decide to pronounce it. For obvious reasons, it's got these extremely beautiful variegated leaves in like a camo type pattern. This one over here is the Ficus Elastica Melanie. It has a little bit of a smaller leaf plus a more compact structure to it. This is the Ficus Robusta, I believe. The Robusta has a little bit of a larger leaf compared to the other varieties, and this is a lighter green. And down here is another super common variety. This is the Ficus Elastica Burgundy. Has obviously a darker leaf, and it's got on the newer leaves, let's see if I can find it here, but a little bit of a kind of like a red burgundy tinge to the underside of the leaves. First thing I'm going to talk about is the light requirements for this plant. They absolutely love a bright sunny area, especially these variegated ones like the Taniki, as it doesn't have as much green chlorophyll to photosynthesize as some of the solid green leafed variety ones. So just make sure that you have it in a bright sunny area. This is a south facing window. It's about 4 feet back right now. Make sure that it doesn't get any direct sunlight, otherwise you'll get some leaf burn. Through these summer months here in Canada, the sun is a little bit higher in the sky, so it does not get any direct sunlight in this area right here, but in the winter months it's a little bit closer to the horizon, so it might get a little bit of afternoon direct sunlight, but it's not intense enough to kind of scorch the leaves. So just be careful for leaf burn. That was really long-winded, but yeah, if you have it in like a lower light location, it's probably not going to do as well and probably not grow as fast. So just make sure it gets a lot of bright light, so closer like an east facing window or west would be good as well. Can maybe tolerate a little bit of early morning or late afternoon direct sunlight, but just make sure you give it a good sunny spot and it will do well for you. I'm going to talk about watering and soil at the same time. Make sure these plants are in a well-draining soil. This is a tropical plant soil, and I added a bunch of extra perlite. You can see there's a lot of perlite. They do not tolerate sitting in wet soil for very long, so just make sure it's a nice airy mix. Whatever you decide to use, like sand, some orchid bark, something like that, just make sure it's nice and gritty, well draining, it doesn't hold on to moisture. Overwatering is probably one of the most common issues with this plant, so that's why it's important to have it in a good, well draining soil. But also the size and type of pot also affects soil moisture levels. So obviously if you have a larger pot like this one, it's going to retain more moisture in the soil compared to one of these smaller ones, as well as using a plastic pot compared to terracotta. Plastic will obviously retain a little bit more moisture in the soil as compared to terracotta, as terracotta is quite porous and it's good at drawing out moisture from lower in the pot and evaporating it. So one way I like to determine if the plant needs water or not, I use a bamboo skewer like this. I simply just put it all the way down into the soil, leave it there for about 30 seconds and pull it out. You can see on the stick whether it needs watering or not. So the stick will feel a little bit damp, as well as you can see there was a little bit of soil sticking to the sticks. So this one is probably a little bit damp just at the very bottom, but the majority of it is pretty dry. So this one will definitely need a good thorough watering. I'm going to give this little Taniki some water here, as it's absolutely bone dry. I will give these a good thorough watering so it comes out the bottom of the drain hole, but then I will let it dry out again almost till it's bone dry. The plants don't really give you any like yellow leaves or anything like that. If it's dry, it might get a little bit droopy. You will start to notice some yellowing on the leaves if you are over watering it. So yeah, let's just give it a good thorough soaking here. You can already see it's coming out the bottom of the drain hole. It's still draining. I might give it one more water and just let it drip out the bottom, and then this one is watered. Another good way to determine if your plant needs to be watered or not is the weight. Obviously when it's dry, it's going to be quite a bit lighter than what it is right now after I gave it a good thorough watering. So yeah, just check the weight of the pot. If it's light, check the soil, and then give it some water. Regular house humidity is okay for these plants. Right now mine's at 41%, so I like to keep it between that 40 and 50. That's basically just normal house humidity. Temperature is 23 degrees right now, so you don't need it by a humidifier or anything like that. It's done really well for me just in regular house humidity. I do fertilize these plants throughout the spring and summer months. I don't think I've fertilized them yet, but for the first fertilizer of the year, I will cut the recommended dosage in half. This is Miracle-Gro's water soluble, so all I do is mix it up in a container of water. They've got a little scoop, just a little granular type mix, dump it in the water, and then I will water the plants as I normally would. So just make sure that the soil is dry, give it a good thorough watering, and it should be good. I will often bring my plants outside not only to clean the leaves, but these can be susceptible to spider mites. So I just like to spray off the leaves every once in a while. And this also gives it a good thorough watering, basically flushes out any salts that are in the soil. So I'll let it drain through. Just spray it off lightly, just with enough force to kind of dislodge any dust or anything like that. Just gonna rotate it around. Make sure you get the underside of the leaves here as well, and the entire plant. I'm just gonna spray it off. Get kind of all sides. I'm gonna take it inside because right now it's just scorching hot. I don't want the leaves to get any leaf burn or anything like that. So I'm gonna spray off the plant, take it back inside. Might toss it in the tub just to kind of let it drain. Got my little syngonium that I potted up in here. It's already getting a new leaf. These are actually pretty easy to propagate. This one in particular was given to me as a cutting over a year ago. I rooted it in water for about 3 months, and it's now been potted up in some soil for over a year, and it's gotten quite a bit of new growth. So yeah, pretty easy to propagate. I'm gonna show you on this Ficus Elastica Melanie here. I'm actually going to just cut the top off as it's getting a little bit taller than the rest of them. So I'm gonna trim it back a little bit. This can also promote further branching, and I'll show you here in a minute. On a Burgundy where I've propagated earlier this spring. But what you want to look for is a section of the stem like this. It gives you probably 3 or 4 or 5, 6 leaves kind of thing. And these little lines here are leaf nodes or leaf lines. You can see leaf branches out from the section. So you want to find an area like this and cut in between one of these leaf lines, and that way it can potentially get some branches from the closest leaf line or even a little bit further down in the stem here. So cut in between these leaf nodes, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna grab a nice clean sterile pruning shears and we'll snip the top off. Okay, so I'm gonna cut it down to right about here, just above this little leaf. I'm gonna cut just above that leaf line, just something like that. It will leak this little milky stuff, so make sure you have paper towels or something by, because I don't. Okay, so here's what the freshly cut end looks like. I'm just going to get rid of some of that sap stuff so it doesn't run down the plant here. But yeah, I'll provide some updates down the road of if any branches pop out of this area. Okay, here's the Burgundy. You can see I made the cut right there, and it's gotten 1 branch. It looked like it may have been getting 2. You can see a little sprout from there, so it may still branch out in 2 areas. I'm not too sure, but this one's going to stay outside. And yeah, this is kind of what to expect when you cut a ficus. It's branches from one of the closest little leaf lines. And just so you see, I have it in the shade right now as I don't want it to get any leaf burn. I'm just kind of transitioning it from the inside to the outside, so it's underneath the barbecue. It's getting plenty of heat, maybe some late afternoon sun, but it's primarily in the shade for right now. So just as a little bit of an experiment, I'm actually going to do 2 different methods of propagation. I'm going to do single leaf cutting. That means you need a portion of the stem here as well, and then I'm going to do the stem cutting. So to do the single leaf cutting, again, you just cut in between one of these leaf nodes, like that. Oops, it's tough doing it with one hand. Just cut that off so that you have a little section like this with an attached leaf. And today I'm going to be using some rooting hormone. I haven't used it in a long time, and you don't have to, but just because I'm going to be putting it in soil right away, I just want a little bit of rooting hormone to kind of seal up the bottom portion. And then I'm simply going to take a container of dirt or soil and just place it in there like that. I'm gonna give it some water, and then I'm gonna place this one outside for the summer and see how it does. Okay, so for the stem cutting, I have a section like this, and I'm going to remove a few of the lower leaves off. I should have got my tripod today, but I didn't. If you ever try and root a leaf, it probably will grow roots, but it won't grow into a new plant. You need a section of the stem like that. So just cut one more off here. And again, just dab off sap on the bottom. I'm going to use rooting hormone for this one as well, so just lightly coat the bottom. I have a clear vessel of water like that, and I'm simply just going to place it in there like that. I'm going to change out the water maybe once every week just so it gets some fresh oxygenated water. And I'm going to keep it in a bright sunny area right here on the plant table close to the south-facing window, and hopefully in a month or so we'll start to see some roots. Okay, now I'm going to repot this guy in a little bit of a larger pot, get him out of that small one. You can see I've already pre-mixed my tropical soil with a bunch of perlite. This one has a lot of like smaller perlite pieces, which I don't particularly like, but I don't really have anything else on hand right now. But you want some of the larger, more coarse perlite. So I'm gonna have to grab a new bag of perlite. So anyways, with this pot, it has a little bit of a larger drain hole. So I like to use just a single kind of rock at the bottom. This just prevents soil from kind of falling out the larger hole when you add the soil in. So I'm gonna fill it up maybe about half, and then I'm going to size up this plant in this pot. And check out the roots, make sure they're not encircling or entangling, such as like a root-bound plant. If they aren't, I'm just simply going to take that hopefully intact soil, just put it in this pot and fill it around. I watered this one yesterday just as it was starting to get a little bit droopy. I didn't want to completely shock the plant. So you can see I used a little bit of orchid bark in this one too, just to help with a nice chunky mix. I'm just loosening it around the edges here, just in case any roots are adhering to the side, and just pull it out lightly. And you can see, for the most part, everything looks okay. Not root bound or anything like that, so I'm simply just going to put it in this pot. Maybe loosen up a bit of the top of the soil. Just kind of mix it in. Probably won't bore you with the entire process of filling in soil around the pot or around the plant, but just make sure that it stays nice and straight and upright. You can just lightly pack down the soil with a pencil or whatever you have, and just completely fill up the soil. And that's pretty much it. Just a quick and easy little repotting. Hopefully it'll continue on to grow much larger, and once it gets too big down the road, then I'll have to cut it back to keep its size at an appropriate height for an indoor setting. So I might propagate this one down the road as well. A lot of people, including myself, have a difficult time finding this one. Like, this one isn't in stores. Like, I've never seen it at any of our local plant shops or anything like that. And even when I put out a call to have like a plant trade or something like that, no one really had seen this one around. So I don't know, these lighter green ones sounds like pretty rare or uncommon, I guess. And it's, like I said at the start of the video, I think this is probably my favorite plant in my collection. I don't know what it is about these plants, but they are, yeah, they're beautiful and easy to care for. Something like that, just back it down so it doesn't flop over. Since I gave it some water yesterday, I'm not going to water today. I'm just going to let the plant use up the soil moisture it already has. I might check back in like a week or two and give it a good thorough watering then, but I think that's the general rule after repotting a plant, especially if you damage some of the roots. Just make sure you give it a little bit just make sure that you give it a little time for the roots to kind of repair itself, or I guess heal a little bit, before you just completely saturate it with water. So yeah, after repotting a plant, maybe give it a couple days before you give it a good thorough watering. But that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below. I know this was a long video, so I hope you all stuck around to the very end. Again, I appreciate all the support. Thanks again for watching. Take care, everyone. Bye.